I think the airplane crashed in the Andes mountains, somewhere in that region, and they presumed death. But months after, a few people walk out, of the mountain, and then suddenly they're alive.
We've all probably read or heard of stories where planes crash landed somewhere into a jungle and people actually survived.
Right. Because death, as I said, is final. You can't debate whether death happened or not because you have the person there, right? He's dead.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking of scam here. All right, I'll go missing for 7 years. Then one day after, maybe 8-9 years, I come back. It seems like there's sketchy business going on. So what do insurance companies do? Sushant, there's this thing about life insurance policies, right? I look at the claim settlement ratios of most of these companies and they're always above 99, etc.
Right.
And I understand why that's the case. Death is final.
Right.
Once there's proof of death, which you generally can't fake, the insurance company is obligated to pay out.
True.
That's how term insurance policies work.
Yep.
And unlike hospitalizations, jahan maybe there can be a fraud from the insurance company's end, or maybe there is some non-disclosure. Term insurance companies don't have such conditions. Usually, if there is non-disclosure, they have to find it within the first 3 years.
True.
Or they have to pay out, because death, as I said, is final. You can't debate whether death happened or not because you have the person there, right? He's dead.
Absolutely.
But there are a few times when death may not be entirely final. Just say, for example, let me give you a use case.
Okay.
I'm traveling in a flight right now.
Okay.
There's turbulence, and usually even though turbulence doesn't lead to accident, but let's suppose there's an accident and the flight is never recovered. The plane is never recovered, right? And my body is never recovered. The presumption is that I can't be alive after, say, a few weeks if the plane is not found, if my body is not found. However, there's no actual proof because my body isn't there.
Absolutely.
Right? So what happens then? How do life insurance companies treat this, and will I get my term insurance claim paid out?
Fair. So I think how it would work in these situations is, firstly, this is treated as an extraordinary event.
Correct. Yeah.
Meaning each situation is different from the other.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
2 planes go missing, they'll still be treated very differently.
Yes.
Now, if we were to take Malaysian Airlines, for example, right? Flight MH370.
Right.
The last traceable location of that flight was above the southern Indian Ocean. With miles and miles of ocean all around.
Yeah.
So in that case, the only presumption was that, look, it's most probably ended in the ocean.
Correct.
Whereas we've all probably read or heard of stories where planes crash landed somewhere into a jungle and people actually survived.
Right.
So in the second scenario, obviously the countries and the airlines themselves, the moment a plane goes missing, they would initiate a search. They would send out a search party. And like you mentioned, it's probably a time span of 2-3 weeks. Maybe a month, 2 months at most, where they'd assume that, now there's no chance of survival. So all these events are treated completely differently.
Correct. Okay.
But in this particular scenario, at the end of the day, the government or the airlines themselves would release a manifesto or a statement saying that, look, we're stopping our search. We are now assuming that, the plane is dead and the plane has crashed and there are no survivors. And this was the list of the passengers and the crew.
Got it.
This again is completely subjective depending on the time span that they decide to search for.
And this depends on the governments also, I suppose. You said, okay, there is a presumption of death because, we've searched enough, we have some evidence to suggest that the plane may have crash landed. But I was watching this podcast called The Society of the Snow. It was about, I think the airplane crashed in the Andes mountains, somewhere in that region. And they presumed death, but months after, a few people walk out, of the mountain, and then suddenly they're alive. So what is the degree of evidence that the government should have when they're declaring something like this? Should it be like, okay, once the government declares something, the insurance companies will act? Or will insurance companies still take their own sweet time to decide whether the government's investigation is enough and whether we should do something on our own?
So this once again is an extraordinary event, right? Where if the government has released a statement saying that the plane has crashed and there are no survivors, the insurance companies are now obligated to pay the claim out. And in all probability, they would have.
Because for them also it will be bad PR. Imagine the government says they're dead and probably the families also have made peace with it. And then they say, oh, no, we don't think, these people are paid, we don't pay. That would be terrible PR. And obviously planes don't go missing so frequently.
Very often,
I get that. They would probably pay out. Right. But what if they paid out? And like I said, in this case, people do come back, after 6 months. And then what happens? Will the beneficiaries still be entitled to that money? Or will I have to pay back the insurance company now?
Right. So this one's interesting. At least when we checked with a few insurance companies, the kind of feedback or response we got was that in case the insurance company and the family members had reached a partial settlement.
Okay.
Meaning it's a 1 crore policy, but they agreed that, look, we'll only pay 50 lakh or 70 lakhs out of that. In that case, the insurance company cannot go back and claim the amount.
So basically here they're saying, look, there is no presumption of death, but I'm still settling with you so that you don't make any future claims.
True.
And then they can't go back.
They can't make any future claims either.
Got it.
We want the money back.
Got it.
But in case it was a 100% settlement, then yes, they can go back for the proceeds as well as for interest on that amount. They can contact the family once again saying that, hey, this was falseful enrichment maybe.
Got it.
And they can try to get the money back from them.
Right. But I would still presume that insurance companies would not do this because again, it is terrible press. Imagine somebody survives for 6 months, they come back. And suddenly the insurance company is out there saying, you give me back my money. And it will probably look very bad.
True.
But I mean, outside of flights also, I keep thinking sometimes, what if one day a person just goes missing, right? There's absolutely no trace of the individual. Then once again, do insurance companies presume death after a certain period of time and pay out the claim? And if not, how does this usually work?
So they don't treat it immediately, right? There's a time span given by the section 108 of the Indian Evidence Act. So this states 7 years is the duration. Meaning from the time a person goes missing, the first responsibility of his family or dependents is to file a first information report in the police station, an FIR. Then the search goes on, the investigation goes on. Once it's been 7 years, they can go back to the police station and get a non-traceable report from them. Saying that it's been 7 years and the police themselves have not found any evidence or proof.
Got it.
With this non-traceable report, the family now approaches a court asking them to pass a ruling that, look, please declare this person as no longer alive.
Got it.
With that ruling and sort of the document that the court would provide them, they can approach insurance companies that would act as a death certificate of sorts.
Basically, they're saying now there is presumption of death.
Absolutely
after
correct.
This time.
Yes.
But let's suppose I go missing and there is some threat to life.
Right.
Now, there's very strong evidence to suggest, maybe not direct evidence, indirect evidence to suggest that something's been done to me, I'm no longer alive, right? Then will I still have to wait 7 years?
Once again, this comes under the extraordinary event category, where it would be treated on a case-to-case basis.
Case-to-case basis, So I make the same pitch, right? I go FIR, I go file an FIR, I go to the courts, and if the courts then again probably agree
based
to
on the evidence,
on the evidence, then maybe I can work with the insurance company and the insurance company may pay out the claim. All right, this brings me to another question. In the 7 years period, right? Abhi, I'm really grieving my, parent, family member, anybody, right? The insured has gone missing, and I have to now decide whether to keep the insurance policy alive. Because obviously, what happens if I don't pay my premiums? Then the insurance policy has lapsed. And can the insurance company then come back and say, I will not pay the claim, right? Because the insurance company has lapsed and I've not paid the premium. Or should I keep paying the premiums even in those 7 years?
Right. So the insurance company can do that. They can come to you saying that, hey, the policy is lapsed, so it's no longer active.
Right.
So this would be the duty or the responsibility of the dependents to keep that policy active by paying the premiums.
So you still have to pay the premiums.
You still have to pay the premiums, or at least inform them actually.
Got it.
Parallelly that, hey, this person is missing and we're still paying the premiums for the policy.
Got it. I'm thinking of scam here.
Right.
I'm thinking all right, I'll go missing for 7 years.
Right.
I'll go missing for 7 years. And then one day after, maybe 8-9 years, I come back.
Right.
The insurance company has paid out the claim. There's presumption of death. I'm massive gambling debt. I wanted to settle. I conspire with my family members to do this. I've hid myself really, really well.
Right.
And now I come back. Right. Again, you said the insurance company can go back. But then you also said in most cases they may not do this because it is bad PR. But in this case, it seems like there's sketchy business going on. So what do insurance companies do?
So I think this would be a clear case of fraud, right? And before settling the claim, the insurance company would investigate as much as they can.
So they'll find out.
They'll find it out, right? They'll send people home, they'll speak to relatives. They do a lot of things like that, where they try to investigate and get to the bottom of it.
Got it. So their investigation would probably lead them to your location.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't, eventually if you show up, they'll be very stringent there. I think they'll go back and actually...
And in a case like this, I don't think your debtors would wait 7 years for the money, right? They'll probably hound your family in the meanwhile and not a nice situation.
Right, got it. Anything else that people should remember generally in such cases, right? Because it seems to me that a lot of people may not even know that, the insured has a term insurance policy and they go missing, right? Obviously, even if you're dead, right, there's no way to communicate with your family. So anything that generally customers should remember when they buy a term insurance policy, right? So that events like this, they're well aware. They know exactly what to do if they go missing, if they're dead eventually in, through an accident or something happens to them. What should customers generally know?
I think one of the first ones is, of course, inform your family that you've bought such a policy, right? I think that's one of the biggest areas we've seen, especially in India, where the discussion of finances at home is not very sort of prevalent. So that's probably one of the first places to start. And two, for them to be more aware on situations like this. While they might be extreme situations in very rare circumstances, it still helps to be educated on this, and I think that's what we're here for.
Got it.
Which is why I think if you're planning to buy an insurance, it always helps to have a trusted advisor like Ditto to guide you through the process, and also make sure that we're there with your nominees at the time of a claim to help them out, make them educated on these scenarios, and really handhold them in a tough situation like this.
And if you like the video, like always, actually like the video, leave a comment on the video, and also tell us if you have any other interesting scenarios that you want us to discuss in future videos, because term insurance is a very interesting product, and I think there are a lot of questions that you people will have that we could probably answer here. So yeah, please keep watching these videos and don't forget to book a call with our advisors if you need any consultation regarding health and term insurance. And as always, we will see you again soon. Until then, happy insurance hunting.